Hi there and welcome. It's showtime and time for another Monday Mastery. And I'm dating coach and author Rick Sodebeer. I am here to talk about dating and relationship issues and answer your questions about the same. And this past week, I hope you all had a great weekend and a great week last week. I spent my weekend traveling. I am now back in the warmer climate of the Kansas City metro area. Hey, Addie, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. And it's nice to be back in warmer weather, but I was driving across the city today, and not so much. I'm not used to the all the traffic. It's taken me a little while to get used to it again. I mean, it's it's typical, but I'm just not used to it. I'm used to being in small towns and being able to zip from one side of town to the other in about 5 minutes. Anyway, again, hey Nancy, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. And I've over the weekend, and actually the end of last week, and the first and through the weekend, I had people commenting on a couple of things and asking me a couple of questions, and I just wanted to follow up. I've talked about online dating, and I think probably last week or the week before, and talked about attitude in dating, and questions keep popping up in that area. So I just thought I'd continue along and get some of those questions answered. And I want to pose some questions to you guys, and not necessarily looking for answers today. Lindsay, hey, how you doing, brother? And glad to see you're here. There, it's one of those things that and again I want to pose some questions to you and get you to think, and again, I'm not necessarily looking for answers, but they're more rhetorical questions to get you to think about your situation, and it was based on a comment from a lady that reached out to me and was talking about that she had been divorced, and I'll just say a significant amount of time. And if I mop my brow here today, it's number one, it's a little bit warm, but I have a an oscillating fan in here that's also a heater, and I thought I had it on fan, and I had it on heat. So oh, it got a little warmer in here than I was hoping. So anyway, uh, anyway, she said that she had been divorced for a long time and had compared her situation to mine, where it took me a couple of years to move past my marriage to really recover. And probably the better part of 3 to 3.5 years, I was married or I was with my ex for 25 years, and so it just took some time. The first couple of years, I kept wondering. There was a guilt complex that I wondered if I had done enough. What could I have done differently? What could I have said differently? And I think we all go through that, or most of us do. So you know she was concerned that she had been divorced for a significant amount of time, and asked me what she would do about it. And the question that immediately came to my mind was, well, what benefit are you gaining or are you receiving by living in the past? And the follow up question is, and what are you giving up by living in the past? There comes a point in time that it is time to move on, and there are there are memories. There are both good and, or should be both good and bad. You married somebody because you thought they were the right person, and ultimately things changed, and it didn't work out. I thought the same thing. But there comes a point in time when your mind has to shift from looking at the past and continually mulling over what he or she did wrong, how you've been hurt, how you never thought this would happen, and how your future plans have all kind of disintegrated. And there comes a point in time where you have to let that go. You have to start living in the present. And it is a mental mind shift. And you have to start thinking about, okay, what can I do about the past? And if you're anything like me, it's nothing, because the past is the past, and there's nothing you can do about the future. You can only live for today. You can only do what you do today. Hopefully, you start making some better decisions, better choices about the people you date, and start looking at enjoying some life today. And for some people, and I understand, I've had relationships that were extremely difficult to let go. But there are techniques, there are ways of letting some of that go or moving past it. And I'm not saying to forget. It's not necessarily an easy. I'll never say forgive and forget. I'll say forgive, but you have to remember what went on, and who did what to you, and or to whom. And none of us walk away from a relationship completely innocent. We're there for a reason. And Lindsay says, well, trust factor came up again. My girl had only been divorced 6 months. Lisa has eyes for an old boyfriend from college. He's going through a divorce, and he's pursuing her behind my back. She wants me, but has feelings. So I'm letting her go. Timing is so important. Yeah, Lindsay, I tell you what, there's a couple of things going on there. Obviously, she has feelings for the other guy, but and I don't know how long she was married, but I doubt seriously that she's ready, truly ready, emotionally for a long-term relationship. And if you know how long she was married, just type the number in the chat, and I'll address it from there. But odds are that she needs a couple more years yet to grieve the loss of that marriage, and recover from it. She was married 21 years. Okay, there you go. That's odds are, Lindsay, and I'm not trying to pick on you. I love you like a brother. But the odds are you are a rebound relationship. And that's something that you have to be very cognizant about when you're dating somebody that's newly divorced, and a year or less is newly divorced. You have to. Thanks. Thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate that. And there's no way around the healing process or the grieving process. And again, your odds are you were a rebound relationship. She found great comfort in you. She enjoyed spending time with you. But there's a guy coming in behind you who is going to create a toxic relationship for her because he wants to date her, and because he's not taking time to heal or recover from the loss of his marriage. He's just diving back in and making the typical mistakes that guys make regularly. It's like it's like we're stupid. And and I say that in not specifically to you, Lindsay, but to all guys. There are certain situations that we absolutely get stupid, and I've had to learn the hard way that you can't dive into another relationship because you're looking for another bedmate, or you're looking for somebody to keep you company. And this goes applies to everybody, but for right now, I'm speaking specifically to guys. When you're getting a divorce, get the divorce. Take some time for yourself. If you want to date, fine. Don't date to find a new relationship. Don't date to find somebody to marry or to take care of you for the rest of your life. You're not ready. You're not emotionally ready. And that's part of the reason that the divorce statistics, when you start getting into second, third, fourth marriages, that's why divorce statistics are so terrible, because you're not thinking, you're not taking time to work through issues. Nobody walks out of a marriage unscathed. Everybody was a contributing factor to what happened. And in being a contributing factor, you not only have to figure out what your partner did wrong, but you also have to think back and objectively and say, okay, what did I do wrong? How could I have been better? What could I have done differently to make this relationship work? It's so easy to, and I'm guilty. I did it when I was newly divorced and back on the market. I thought, I had been separated, and I thought for 3 years, and I thought that I was done dealing with it, and lo and behold, the day that paperwork was signed, it was a whole new ball game. And I recognized that there were issues that started arising after the divorce was final, because now you're legally split. I don't want to use the term separate. I don't want to confuse anybody, but everything is legally split. There may be some time for finances to wrap up. Hey, Phil, thanks for joining in. But legally, everything is done. All the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. You're both allowed to start living your own lives, and starting for some of us, starting life over. Addie says, yes, dating casual can be great, but make sure the other person is in the same boat, thinking it's only casual. Absolutely. And when you date somebody, especially when you're shortly or newly out of a relationship or newly divorced, and this is where you guys need to step up a little bit. And I'm not saying you're doing things wrong, but when you start dating somebody and you find out that they're newly divorced, within that first year, make sure that you set the guidelines that you're only going to be dating as friends. If 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road you want to pursue each other, or you continue being good friends and decide that you want to date seriously, fine. But in the meantime, make sure you both are able to date other people. And the reason being is that, number one, when you come out of a divorce, and odds are you know more about what you don't want than what you do want. And so casual dating is a great way to start meeting people and learning about characteristics or traits that you find desirable. You cannot successfully date when you're focused on what you don't want. It's the reticular activating system in your brain that causes you to focus on all those things. That's what ultimately causes you to say, to be looking around and saying, Well, there are no good guys left. There are no good women left because all the good ones are taken. All the rest are broken or immature or whatever adjectives you want to describe. So for those of you that follow me and have been with me for a while, you guys need to take the lead here. And as much as you might enjoy somebody's company, you have to say, no, you're not ready for a full-time relationship. And you can even tell them you just don't know it. It's and I challenge every one of you, if you meet somebody that's newly divorced, and I've told this to people time and time and time again, and to a person they'll say, no, I'm fine, I've been separated 2, 3, 4 years, and I've done all my grieving, and I'm over it. And no, you're not. Because like I said, it isn't until the ink is dry on the divorce decree that things really start to change, and that you really start to heal, and that you really start to recover. And you don't know those things for a year, 2 years, 3 years. But what you'll do is at the end of a year, you're going to look back and say, holy crap, if I changed, Rick was right. And to a person, everybody I've told that to is come back. One person wouldn't admit it, but she knew that I was right. But everybody has come back to me to a person and said, Rick, you're right. It takes a full year just to get back to a level of dating and self comfort. Actually is where you should be. Getting back to a level of self comfort, start discovering who you are, because we all morph in relationships. We all adjust. We especially for somebody who was with someone for 21 years. I was with my ex for 25 years. When you're with somebody that long, you change. And no matter how good or bad the relationship was, you change yourself to try to keep the peace in the family, so to speak. You work at making adjustments so there's not as much anger or not as much conflict, or just not as many issues that you have to deal with. And your partner does the same thing. And when anybody's coming out of a divorce, Lindsay, I don't know how long you've dated Lisa, but she's just getting to a point where she's starting to recover, starting to heal. I have a very dear friend that I talk to regularly, that when she was Addie, I'll get to your question that in just a second. She and I've seen this with so many people. She's a widow, and was very much interested in starting to date, a year or so, and I've dated a couple of widows that were, and I say newly widowed, within the first year, and they thought they were ready to date, and oh my gosh, that's a formula for disaster. And because it takes widows typically 4 to 5 years to recover and get to a place where they understand their own life again. They have control of their own life. When you've spent a significant amount of time and they're taken from you, it's not. And I challenge anyone who says that being widowed is better. I've never seen it being better emotionally. Whether you had an extraordinary marriage or whether it was mediocre, somebody is taken from you, and it may be over a long period of time, but you have no say in it. You have no ability to change the fact that they're leaving, and you don't have any possibility of talking to them in the future, especially if you had a great relationship. So there are so many different so many aspects that cause these things to be different. Let me pause here for a second and get Addie. Why do people separate but never seem to divorce? Timing. Um, I guess I don't understand the purpose of separation. Well, sometimes, Addie, sometimes divorces take time. It could be for financial reasons. It can be, there can be any number of reasons. Things that need to be. Never seems to be divorce. Never seems to be timely. Yeah. Okay, I get it. It's it boils down to that there can be any number of reasons. A lot of those things boil down to finances. Some people separate to get away from each other, and then in the meantime they try to work on their marriage. They may be getting counseling, they may be getting therapy, and trying to work things out so they can come back together. But there are times that you have to call a truce, and that's where separation can come in. But if someone's trying to date while they're separated, it should be a red flag that they're obviously not ready. Number one. Number two, and most importantly, they're still married. It's you're still marrying. Uh, you're still dating somebody that's married. Nancy. I'm sorry, I missed your comment here. Nancy says your audience must be much younger than myself. Being very close to 69. I don't know if taking 3 years is practical at my age. Thoughts? Um, and Nancy, I'm assuming you're talking about divorce. Yes, it is practical, and here's the reason why. It's while the first thing I'm going to tell you is don't let age force you to make or spook you into making bad choices. That is one of the biggest reasons to take time. You need to become comfortable with your own company, and I tell everybody this, that when you get comfortable with your own company, you can make the decision of who's right to date and who's not. You don't have to settle for anything less than extraordinary. When you get to a point of understanding that you're okay with your own company, while you may want to be in a relationship, you're okay with the fact that if I'm not, that's okay too. And that puts you in a position of power, Nancy. And I think we talked about this in the in Dating Made Simple Academy, and it's just something that we need to go through. We can't process. The brain doesn't. Hey, Janny, thanks for joining in. We just can't process everything that quickly. So Nancy, I'm using my guidelines as a general rule of thumb. Some people move through crisis a little, and crisis isn't the wrong word, but move through loss or divorce or somewhat traumatic, emotionally traumatic incidents. Some move through those a little more quickly than others, and it's everybody's different. But I beg you not to force it. I beg you not to try to scramble and find somebody to replace your ex-husband. It just and I've seen people that have gotten divorced, jumped into another relationship, and they've never taken time to grieve or recover from any of these relationships emotionally. And that what that does is it sets you up to be carrying all this brokenness, all this potentially anger, all this hurt, all this pain, and all you're doing is prolonging that and carrying it into your next relationship. And so it's just critically important that we all take the time to recover from our past relationship before we start diving into something, a new relationship. And I know some of you, and I'm guilty of it. I've been in a couple of not merry-go-round, revolving door relationships where you break up and you get back together, you break up, you get back together. And it each time you do something like that, what you're doing is you're opening, number one, you're reconnecting with somebody that you broke up with for a special reason. And odds are the second time you break up with them is going to be the same as the first, and the 12th time you break up with them is still going to be the same as the first, because nothing really changes. Rarely does anyone ever change sufficiently to be the person. Hey, Sophia, thanks for joining in. Rarely does anybody change sufficiently to eliminate any red flags or the lack of must-haves. If you left because of one of your deal breakers, well, guess what? That deal breaker is still going to be there when you get back. So you never want to be in a revolving door relationship. You want to take time, and you've got to take time in between. Even if you were dating somebody for 6 months or a year, it's going to take you a little bit of time. Let's see. Sophia says the only thing that can change is you. However, a couple need to make a commitment if they want to go back. I disagree with that, Sophia, because you left for a particular reason or reasons, and I've yet to see a relationship where those reasons have gone away. I've yet to see a relationship where there's been enough change to allow you to be together. What you're doing by going back and agreeing to be, making a commitment to be a couple, is you're agreeing to mediocrity. You're agreeing to be satisfied with something that's less than you want. And odds are you're doing it just because you're comfortable, just because you don't want to look anymore, just because dating is not necessarily easy. It can be simple. It's not rocket science, but it's not always fun, and it's not always easy. Sheila says it's best not to go back. Keep moving forward. Absolutely. Hey, Glenn, thank you. Hey, amen, Rick. Great information. Glad you're enjoying it. We're human. We make mistakes. And the Bible says, Jesus says, put your face 70 times 70. Yes, I understand, but I think he was talking about. I'm not sure he was talking about. In fact, I know he wasn't talking about relationships there. But I mean, if that's if for lack of better terms, Sophia, if you want to be in a mediocre relationship where you, and I'm not saying that even extraordinary relationships are perfect, but it's going to be, there has to come a point in time where you're both happy, and it has to be where you're both happy, not being miserable. And the relationships that you're describing, yes, it's biblical to forgive, but it doesn't necessarily say to forget. And that's what I said at the top of the hour is forgiveness is great, but you don't have to forget. You shouldn't forget. Let's see. So Sophia says that's what I was going to, not perfection, and and again, nobody is perfect, and I totally agree with that. But there's somebody that's out there that's perfect for you. It doesn't mean they don't have flaws. It doesn't mean that you don't have flaws. It just means that there are enough things that come together. You develop an intellectual, a spiritual, an emotional and a physical connection. You speak, in my opinion, it's best to speak similar love languages. They have all of your must-haves in none of your deal breakers, and it's so important to have so many things in common. You know, you don't have to have, and I'm not talking about somebody being your clone. I'm talking about, you know, where you share a lot of common things. You may share common music. You may share a common interest in, I don't know, in the Chiefs. And speaking of Chiefs, we're going to keep this a little bit shorter tonight because I know there are some people that are going to want to watch the game because the coverage starts at 7 o'clock, and I don't want to hang on to you until the very end. So for those of you here in the Kansas City area, we'll release a little early. But the point is, you know, the whole idea about finding an extraordinary relationship is to make sure you have as many things in common, you have as many connections in common. You know, the one thing I love to use as an analogy is if you're rappelling off of a cliff and you're hanging on a rope, do you want that rope to have all the strands connected? And this in this particular case, the strands are commonalities, things that you like, things that bind you together. Now, if or do you want one that's just loosely bound or has a lot of frayed ends on it? You know, and you know the frayed ends. You know, you might consider that opposites attracting, where things are you know things are just you're just completely opposite. You know, you like different things. You know, they're exciting at first, but it's there's not enough to hold your attention long term. It's all fun and games in the first couple of years, but after that, it's like, holy crap, what are we doing here? Um, Sophia says, I think commitment is very important. Sometimes I see people are stubborn to make commitment. Well, that's true. Hey, Stephen, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. I was thinking about you when I was at Home Depot today. Um, I'll text you later. Hope you're doing well, brother. Sophia says, sometimes you have stuff in common. However, the person doesn't want to make commitment. Well, if they don't want to make a commitment, then you have your answer there. If they don't want to make a commitment, there's no point in sticking around. There's no point in they've already told you that a commitment is not in their future. So don't this goes back to what I said. You can't change people. Hey, Terry, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. So there's no point in trying to force somebody to be in a relationship just because you like them. That creates a one-sided relationship. And if they tell you early on they don't want to get married, they don't want to be committed to anyone, then believe them. They're not lying to you. You know, it's something that you have to take them at face value for that. And just because you like them and you get into a mindset that you can change their opinion, it's only gonna hurt you, and they're gonna get angry. And at some point, when you think you're getting close to having a commitment and getting them to ask you to marry you, they're gonna walk away, and then you're gonna be crushed because you put on all this time and effort into the wrong relationship. And I've seen this happen so many times. You know, commitment needs to come when you have all of the other things in place. You know, commitment is not something that you should have to struggle to get. Commitment is not something that should be a um, like pulling teeth, the other person's teeth to get them to commit. It should be something you both want. If you're not both on the same page, then keep moving. Don't look back. When your feet hit the floor, you should be out the door and down the street before they can figure out what happened. I'm very definitive about that. That's when I see somebody that's dating someone that doesn't want to make a commitment, and they're wondering what they should do. The first word out of your mouth should be next. It should be all over at that point. Don't waste your time. And that's what I see with so many couples. And even if you do get him to commit, Sophia, all you're going to do is create anger and animosity on his part. And if you ultimately end up getting married because you nag him into it, you're going to end up divorced because he's not going to be happy. And as much as you think you're happy, wait till you start feeling the wrath of his displeasure and unhappiness because he doesn't want to be there. So anyway, sorry about getting a little excited there, but I see this stuff happen all the time, and that's why you start looking at second, third, fourth marriages. They are just filled with problems because we're not taking time to number one, recover from our past relationships. We're not taking time to get comfortable with our in our own skin, in our own company, or with our own company. And these are critical steps to healthy dating. And if you want to date healthy, I've got a whole course on how to become a healthy dater. These things these types of things, these problems plague all of us at one time or another, and we really need to take a step back and look at the entire process of dating, because it is a process. And you have to, if you want to commit to anything, if any of you want to commit to anything, commit to being the best you that you can be. And when you commit to doing all of the right things in dating, commit to dating intentionally. Most people these days date unintentionally. They date randomly. They start, just, oh, let's go online. Oh, she looks nice. He looks, he's cute. Or you meet somebody at a concert, you meet somebody out at the park, wherever you meet them, at a social event, you meet them, you start talking, you say, this guy sounds interesting, or this gal sounds interesting, and you start dating, and without really taking time to figure out what it is you want and being crystal clear about it. You need to have your must-have and deal-breaker list, and that's what I teach and I teach the importance. And for those of you that have followed me for any amount of time, you know how important I think those things are. So it's so important to date intentionally, to know why you're dating. Why is it so important for you to be in a relationship? Why is it so important for you to have somebody to spend time with? Is it because you're lonely? Is it because you want companionship? Is it because because of fear, because you're afraid of dying alone? Is it what is your why? Those are things that you also have to figure out. And it isn't until you get yourself crystal clear that on what's important to you and what isn't, that you can start finding the extraordinary relationships. When you start dating intentionally, you don't have the problems of, well, there are no good ones left. You don't have the problems of all men are pigs, or all women are damaged goods, or whatever it is, whatever the adjectives you're using to describe the opposite sex. You know, a lot of those things go away because you have your perspective correct. And when you start running into people and I guarantee you, when you start dating intentionally, you know, the scammers, the guys that are looking for a nurse and a purse, they soon disappear because you're not focusing on them anymore. You recognize them quickly, and they, you know, they don't stand a chance with you. Terry says, I've dated guys not wanting a relationship, but we just stayed casual friends. Absolutely. When you can, and Terry, that's for the rest of you. Terry is dating from a position of power. You know, she said no commitment. This is a casual relationship, a casual friendship, and this is as far as it goes. And when you find somebody, in Terry's case, when you find guys that agree to that, you can develop some great friendships. But it isn't until you can get yourself to that point where you can say, "No, this is just casual," that you're constantly going to be jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship, only because you're afraid to say no. And you're afraid that if you say no, they're not going to like you. If you say no and they don't like you, well, guess what? They really didn't like you to begin with. They had ulterior motives. And any relationship with them is going to be about them. It's going to be about their wants, needs, and desires, and have nothing to do with yours. So anyway, let's wrap it up today because we're coming down to the last 15 minutes before the game starts. And I just want to give you all a heads up that the cart for all the discounts and all the good stuff on Dating Made Simple Academy is open until tomorrow night at midnight. And if you want to participate in those goodies, you know, there's $100 off. The course is normally $297. It's $197 until tomorrow, and there are 21 lessons and five chapters, 21 lessons, and the longest lesson is about 20 minutes, but it takes you, it's literally a comprehensive step-by-step program to move you from random dating to intentional dating, and setting you on a good path to finding that extraordinary mate and not settling. And plus, you get there'll be 8 weeks of online coaching, Zoom calls, and those are really awesome, and those are actually available to my beta testers, the ones that went through the course earlier this summer. I'll be starting those up again in about a week, and Nancy says, Stephen, I'll get to you in just a second. Nancy says, it's a great program, guys. And Nancy was one of my beta testers. And you know, we had some awesome in those calls. We had some awesome conversations. Stephen says, enjoy being happy and positive in my life. And positive in my life has been the best homework I've ever done. Sharing with others is so important to me. People who recognize your happy nature are very interested, and maybe intrigued. Possibly it's envy. Well, it might be, but you know, there's something attractive about a happy person. You know, and Stephen is perpetually happy. You know, he's an awesome guy. And Terry says the Academy is awesome. So if there's any of you watching either now or the recorded version of this, and you have an interest, the cart is still open. Just go to just message me. You can just go to Dating Made Simple Academy or datingmadesimple.net, and that will take you right to the homepage, and you can register and rock and roll. You can be a part of the next class. And the cart will close tomorrow at midnight, so don't delay. If you have any thoughts if you have any thoughts just take care of it. And Terry also says, I learned so much. Yes, you have. It was fun to watch your progress, Terry, and you're welcome to join you, Nancy, and Addie are welcome to join the Zoom calls to learn even more and to help the next class. So anyway, with that, let's wrap it up and have a great evening. Go Chiefs! And as you can see, I'm a Travis Kelce fan. Where's my number? There it is, number 87. Number 87. Hopefully they have a good day, but I'm a notorious jinx. I started wearing my St. Louis Cardinals stuff late in the year, and they're done for the season. So anyway, Nancy says, "Go Chiefs!" Anyway, have a great week, everyone. I hope it's awesome. Have a great and blessed weekend, and stay safe. And I will see you next Monday for Monday Mastery, and right here from my little mooch docking at my friend's place in Kansas. Anyway, we'll see you next week, folks. Have a great evening.